Richard Laws. Richard Laws, I live at 3561 Rock Creek Lane, Allen Park, 83429. The president of the Lakeview Estates HOA. I've got a number of things that have come up. Basically, I had a whole letter I wrote prepared, but I'm going to deviate that because I heard a lot of things tonight, which I think I need to address. First, you have received a lot of information. And from what I gather, just looking at everybody has not had a chance to review all that information. Sneaky thing that they used to do when I was on Capitol Hill for 9 years was they would put a lot of information in a real big thing, but the things they really wanted would be in the last 5 pages. And nobody ever read that far. They just read it again. So we want to avoid that from happening. So I would encourage you and please implore you to make sure you read all the details and everything that's been done. I also heard that several counties in the state of Idaho don't do things that we do. Doesn't mean a thing. The fact that we have it in our development plan is what we should stick to. We cannot arbitrarily say, well, they didn't do it, so we can't, or we don't have to do it. If it's in the plan and it's stated in the plan, then we should follow the plan or change the plan. And that hasn't been done yet that I'm aware of. Third, a lot of information that has been given tonight is not available to the rest of us. So we don't know what you guys have seen. We don't know what is in the plan. Case in example, the original plan did not show 2 exits from the area. There has to be an ingress and an egress. Is that there? I heard one of the presenters say, yes, it's there, but where? We don't know where it is, and it's not showing on any of the maps that we have today. The plan required a response from all the federal, state, county agencies. Because they don't respond does not mean that they approve it. So I expect, since it is in our plan, that they have to respond, that even those who had no comment if it says no comment in the response, that's fine. But if they just didn't respond and we don't have anything from them, we cannot assume that they agree with it. The other piece is, the engineers just said there may be new things coming up. And if there's other things coming up, how can you make a decision on partial information? And right now, we still only have part of the picture. We do not have the entire picture for us to make, or for you to make a sound decision on what goes on. I heard that if there's contiguous land, the master plan has to be done for all of that land, and that has not been done. That was admitted to by the folks today because they said they're not sure what they want to do with that land. Well, then some type of plan has to come up to show some sort of plan for it. Just can't all of a sudden say, okay, we're going to put a solar farm in here this month, when it wasn't in the original plan, but we've already approved it, so they can do what they want. That's not the way this is supposed to work. My question is, the people who decided what the wetlands were, was that an organization that belonged to the applicant, or was that a completely independent organization that came in and did it? I've seen too many places in organizations where, yes, we've done an internal investigation, we did this, we did that, and sure, we're going to do it on our own.
That's fine.
Okay.
Chairwoman, my name is Brian Arms. I yield my time.
Thank you, Brian. Yeah, we need to know that it was completely independent. I mean, somebody who had no dog in the fight whatsoever to do those types of studies. If you've got somebody who's got a slight bias, even the appearance of bias, then that bias exists. And we cannot have a decision made on something this critical based on a biased report or a biased thing. And I'm not saying that these guys are biased or wrong, but I'm saying if they're not independent, if they are part of the overall company, you know, I could have a company with 5 engineering firms, and if I use one of those firms, naturally, they're going to give me a favorable report. I need to know that someone had no dog in this fight whatsoever. One thing I would like to say, and I know I'm going to get beat up for saying this, but I'm going to say it anyway. I spent 9 years on Capitol Hill, a lot of that time in the Capitol building. I heard all kinds of testimony and staff report and everything else. What I heard tonight that was presented to you as a staff report was a testimony, because it was full of opinion and it was full of what you should or shouldn't do. That's not a staff report. A staff report is hard, cold facts done in an A, B, C, D, and E. No explanation should be necessary. And I think that's all I have to say right now. Other than the clarity of the master plan cannot be ignored. It's got to be, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, it's got to be there. If not, then I would urge you to deny that plan. Again.
On that, it's Kate Ryan. Thank you. I distributed to all the commissioners in the Senate a copy of a resolution of Nelson Ishiyama, 2790 South Pine Haven Drive, Highland Park. 2019, the Fremont County Board of County Commissioners explicitly adopted a comprehensive plan. Here's what they said. All land use and development in Fremont County, Idaho shall comply with the Fremont County Comprehensive Plan. So accordingly, the Fremont County Planning and Zoning Commission promulgated a rule that couldn't be any clearer. Section 3.13.020 F7 says, this commission, meaning the Planning and Zoning Commission, shall take into account those policies of the comprehensive plan. And finally, the description of the rural base zone is to promote the public health, safety, and welfare of the people of Fremont County by encouraging the protection of important agricultural and open lands to ensure important environmental features of the state and Fremont County are protected and enhanced. And third, that fish, wildlife, and recreation resources consistent with the purposes of the Local Land Use Planning Act. So I haven't heard very many words about the comprehensive plan. It's sort of the sleeping giant in this entire process. And the reason why you haven't heard anything about the comprehensive plan is because policies of that plan argue against this subdivision. Policy 11 makes it the policy of the county to maintain, protect, and enhance fish and wildlife resources and habitat. It also recognizes fish and wildlife resources as a cornerstone of the county's economy and reputation as an international recreation destination. I'm sure the Henry Ford Foundation can speak to the effects on water and fish, and the Idaho Department of Fish and Game has already spoken to the harmful effects on animal and bird habitat and migration. That's policy 11. Policy 12 is aimed at protecting the visual resources of the area and directing development away from visually sensitive areas, which the Henry's Lake Platte clearly is. It's got wildlife, it's got the Platte itself, it's got mountains on both sides. Policies 14 and 17 speak very correctly to this subdivision proposal. 14 specifically discourages conversion of agricultural lands to other uses, and 17 specifically re-emphasizes the policy in the need to protect existing farm operations and to direct development away. My time, Barry Phillips. Thank you. Policy 18 more specifically emphasizes protecting water resources that are the foundation of recreational opportunities, and also generally emphasizes the importance of open space, healthy ecosystems, abundant fish and wildlife populations, and habitat and rural aesthetic values. So the comprehensive plan is the sleeping giant. It rules over all of these plans. It talks about the details of the soils report or the wetlands report. But the comprehensive plan discourages this entire enterprise, no matter what the details of those plans are. So, the planning and zoning section that governs this, as I said, couldn't be any clearer. And the administrators didn't make any comments on the restrictions based on the comprehensive plan. He gave them a 33-page memorandum, and there was 3 little lines that said, go refer to a document from the March hearing. He missed the entire major issue here. The comprehensive plan makes it very clear this does not belong where it's platted to be. So in addition, the proposed plan subdivides not only the overall development, but also the requirement of open space. And it, in effect, contains and defeats the entire purpose of open space for visual and wildlife purposes. Animals don't honor checkerboard fashion of open space. And birds don't honor checkerboard pattern of open space for their habitat and laying eggs and rearing their young. So dividing open space into 32 separate spaces, each controlled by different owners, clearly defeats the purpose of so-called open space. And that's especially true when you've got roads crisscrossing property, and they assume driveways that go to each of the homes. So that open space is really an evasion and a fiction. So I think we should proceed.
I yield my time, James Short.
So the 33-page memo from the administration, from the administrator, came, I think, this morning to the public. On the other hand, our deadline for submitting comments was last week. So you all had a week to look over the administrator's comments. You've had 2 hours. So it's a little difficult to address. But in that memo, there are 3 lines, as I said, referring to the comprehensive plan, which is the big issue here. And those 3 lines simply said, go look at another document that's not here, that's in the March record, previous meeting. And I must say that on page 11, there is some terrible advice. Terrible advice. It says you should not talk to anybody else on the commission. You should not talk to anybody in the public. You should not talk to anybody until the next meeting occurs. Well, that in my experience, and probably yours, if you've been on a committee, commission, board, you get a lot of benefit by talking to your fellow members. You may have facts that they don't have. You may have knowledge they don't have. You may have an opinion that they change because of their opinion that persuades you to change your mind. That's the sensible way that bodies like yours make decisions. Not by isolating you, and giving you only the 33-page administrator's memorandum. That stacks the deck in a totally unfair way. So I suggest that that the public has really been handicapped in this because we haven't had more than 2 hours to digest a 33-page memorandum. Then to suggest that you should go into your regional isolation chamber and not talk to each other or anybody else about these issues is, to my mind, terrible advice, not designed to come to a rational decision. So, I think I've already detailed the various policies of the comprehensive plan and implied with it. All I can say is, if you pay attention to those, you can clearly see this is the wrong development in the wrong place. And that's the intent that was the intent of the framers of the comp plan. It was the intent of Fremont County Board of County Commissioners. And I hope it's not very carefully as level. Thank you.
Mark Harbaugh, 3618 Highway 32. I'm going to speak as one of the fly fishermen. And
Put your lip against it and you'll hear everything.
I'm going to speak as one of the fly fishermen and people that live here because of what we have. Quick story here. I only have 3 minutes for you. But Memorial Day, I drove up to Firehole to fish with a good friend of mine that lives on Madison. On my way up, first of all, I counted 8 dead carcasses on my way. When I got just a mile above the Kilgore Junction, I stopped for a black wolf to walk across the road. And then when I got just out of the trees here, I had to stop for 30 head of elk and 10 elk. I saw more wildlife driving to the park than I did in the park. So they know no boundaries. We have several acres down in near Ashton, outside of Ashton. We have moose regularly, a lot of wildlife, but I can tell you we have 85 acres and they're not restricted to a partial on the checkerboard here of where they're going to hang out. And I think this is done very poorly. I'm sorry to say, that's the way it is. The other thing I'm real concerned about is the water. We're sticking a lot of straws in the ground up here. And I've seen that happen in the Sun Valley Ketchum area where everybody starts putting in wells. And then there are, in this case, the landscaping here. And if they're going to be verbal gardens, which I kind of have a hard time with that one as well, but there's just too many opportunities for this to fail our environment, fail the people in the community. So I'm against it. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Dee Dee Draper. I live at 3618 Highway 32, Ashton. And I'm opposed to this development. I think that it's totally goes against our comprehensive plan and our development code. I struggle with how this is all been put together. I so appreciate you all as volunteers and the work that you put in. It's ridiculous. And I don't think it's very efficient in how you've had to have meetings. The fact that the report came out this morning, I just don't even understand that. That makes no sense to me, that you wouldn't have it in time. And so here, the recommendation is for you to just, let's kick this can down the road, then have another meeting and have some more time to read all of this. So I really question that. The 65% open space in cookie cutter that's not open space. It's a dream. It's ridiculous. The fact that our administrator who is advising you all, he's a professional. He is, in his report, says that the master plan rule in our development code seems absurd to him. Well, if that's the case, let's work on redoing the development code. The county's map server program doesn't mean much. Quote from the report. Why do we have it? Why don't we get one that means something? What's with all this misinformation? I would really hope that you would pay strict attention to the Fish and Game letter. It's very meaningful. Dr. Rob Van Kirk and the Henry Spark Foundation, Nelson Ishiyama had great comments. Many people have had great comments. And let's not go backwards. This sets precedents. You let this one go, and then it's going to be harder and harder. Ideally, I'd like to see you all with a moratorium on subdivisions in Fremont County. Get the development code and the comp plan redone, and then come back and go from there. So thanks. I can't believe you don't have to do this, but thank you very much. Thank you.
Jim McKenna, 3915 Lake Breeze Drive. I've lived in Island Park since 1974. And for about 30 of the years of that time, I commuted back and forth across the flats. I know from personal experience that I see less curlews, less sandhill cranes, less elk. Still see a lot of antelope, but maybe they come close to the road to get away from the wolves. I don't know if any of you have ever been to Flagstaff. I was down there one time, and it's a big valley like the flats, and it is completely full. There's a house on every square inch of it, or a street, or a fence, or a well. I would just hate to see that happen to Island Park. I thought.
Okay, Mark Chocolatto, going at 4500 Orm Ranch Road.
Microphone here.
4500 Orm Ranch Road, and I'll represent the owners that are adjacent. Orm Ranch is comprised of three sisters that own the property, different parcels. So that lies just directly to the east of where the development is. Just wanted to a little bit more background on myself. Got the 38 years experience with Forest Service. I've got a lot of experience with land management planning and implementation, took part in developing forest plans, timber sales, and other projects. Yes, it's not a subdivision, but we go through similar processes and studies and reports and do things. So I think I've got some pertinent experience to support the comments. I think I just wanted to start with remember with the context that we're here in today. And Doug commented about people don't like change. They don't like what it's changing to. And there's a lot of cultural ties to the land up in here. It's not that they don't like change, they just don't like what potentially can change to. But I got respect Doug's right to develop his property, just pay for it. And so my perspective here is going to really concentrate on, well, then we're going to follow rules. And if there is something that qualifies or meets the standards, then why I even live big wall. And it's unfortunate that the past setup that maybe was some laxness in enforcing all the code standards and some other subdivisions. But given the public interest here, I don't think you're going to get away with that. So, just start off a little bit here, looking at things that are in the code and what constitutes a complete application. The proponents think they've got everything in there. Maybe they do. I don't think so. But there's a few things here that for things that have been added, then to me it's discussion about the content of some of those things. And are they complete? And are they adequate? Just not you can check a box and say, my drainage plan's in, good, go. So just to show a little bit about here on the map where we're at. This is the property line here. This is the ranch property here lies out to the east. And I'm going to be talking about this irrigation ditch, which has been mentioned already, that runs right along in here.
Larry.
Thank you. And there's a reservoir there and a head gate in there. So that's just a reference. One of the things I'm going to go back to here and remind you of and think about through this is 1.09 says the opponent, the applicant, has the burden. So as we go through these zoning codes in there, I'm looking at the documents. I'm looking for. So the project narrative is a requirement. There is one in the package that we're able to view and see. I would submit that it's incomplete. When given the standard here that all class 1 and 2 permits must be accompanied by a narrative report that clearly explains how the proposed application meets the applicable performance standards of the development code and its dependencies. I would say that there are some things that have been addressed. But if you look through it and you see all the issues coming up, that it is not complete. Master planning, from my standpoint, by its own admission, he submitted a master plan plat, and submitted parts for the master plan. I don't know what the administrator sees as confusing about the rest of it too. It's pretty black and white what belongs in there. I had two things marked that I didn't the last time weren't present, but I had marked this time. It was the wildlife plan and the covenants, conditions, and restrictions. I didn't see those posted on the website. Were this a late edition, or did I just not? Were they buried somewhere? Next question. I didn't see them in there. I don't know if anybody else had a chance to look through. I could not find them. They're so I'm coming from the perspective they're absent. You know, I didn't meet Doug out in the field, talked to some things here. One of them has been the easement. There's another piece of it that needs to be added to the map. I'm comfortable he understands what that is and that would happen. It's just not on the map, the current map that's here today. Also, talked about some content in the covenants that deals with fence maintenance and sharing costs. It's Idaho state law to show up in covenants. Again, I didn't. At the time when we met out here, I was going to send in some notes. We had grizzly bear problems. We got steers again this summer. As of last summer, they've been killed by grizzly bears. Last summer was the pasture right next to them. This summer, it's a little bit further. We'll see how the rest of the summer goes here. But my main one is, and someone addressed the runoff and erosion control plan, and it's in the gospel. So I went looking for this specific thing.
Yes, good time. Yes. Still been working hard.
Okay. So I went in there looking for this specific description of our irrigation ditch and how and I'm not looking for the engineering details and things all written out here. Just looking in the general description, what it is, what's the plan going to keep the runoff water from going in. And can't find it. Can't find even the native irrigation, form irrigation, neighbor's irrigation. There is a map in the back there that it's called out on there, but now we're in there, and there's a part where it is supposed to occur, and that's 2.2 under discharge information, page 5. Talked about Crooked Creek. Well, that's part of the irrigation system in there, but it doesn't say anything about the irrigation ditch. One thing about this irrigation ditch, west side of it is not burned. It was built in the low spot, so there's nothing to stop naturally that occurs. And my concern is that the construction isn't. I'm just asking for the description. It's not in there. Okay, that's the burden of proof. All right. Just in summary here, I want to address some of the professional experts, some of the reports in there. That I did have a chance to read the wetlands report. Inaccurately describes the irrigation system certain in places. There's 3 ditches out there, irrigation ditches, the land is well irrigated, just wasn't there for a couple-week period while we were working on it. There is no water bite on that land to irrigate. One irrigation ditch, it's our ditch. The other one that they refer to is a drainage ditch, and I'm not sure about the third one. I think it was just a let off from the reservoir. I think we got an engineering company that I don't pay a lot for it. And I think the context here, better get all the I's dotted and the T's crossed. And I don't think that's accomplished. And by their own admission, it wasn't accomplished last time. I don't think they've accomplished this time as well here. There's a lot of unanswered questions. And then the staff reports, it's been already brought up. Not only this one, but the other ones, I think they're written in a tone of arrogance towards the public and a bias towards the applicants. I like to see the other side of it. For example, like, especially the last step, here's the missing parts. And those are direct code things in there. So at this point, that creates the appearance that there's something nefarious going on, and I'm not accusing anybody for this. But I'm suspect about the elements of things being run right now in the process. It's a complex project. This is not fair to the applicants, public, or the Planning and Zoning Commission. Smells bad.
Address is 4500 Old Range Road. My property is where Eastern Boundary of Buttons Company. This is not about resisting change. This is about preserving the very thing that people come to Island Park to enjoy. What is the purpose of having a planning and zoning commission and rules? I would like to know, why was this ground zoned as buildable in the first place? As I said, my property lies on the eastern border of Mr. Button's property. And as my husband has just described, our irrigation water runs through the Button's property. We are very familiar with this ground. Unfortunately, the past couple of years have been drier than normal, so that actual ground conditions that must be dealt with are presently evident. But in the spring, as the snow melts, Mr. Button's property is a lake, and everyone who builds on the edge of the flat has water mitigation issues. It is disingenuous of the county to zone this property as buildable, not even to mention the water quality and the wildlife issues. A lot, because people who build on this property are going to find that they have other issues besides the water to deal with. It's right there on the flat with the wind and storm conditions in the winter. It is not going to be a pleasant place to live. Mr. Buttons and any other developers that might want to develop in the future would be better served if this ground zoning would be changed to unbuildable. Another thing, I've heard that Mr. Buttons has his Island Park house up for sale and he's moving to Mexico. Does he plan to be on hand here to administer the development and sales of the property lots till it's complete? If he is able to sell the whole property and not be involved with its development, why not wait for the actual developer to submit plans? I keep hearing of wealthy people who are looking for ground to buy and put easements on for tax breaks. That's what we need here, because we do not want to challenge property rights. This is a delicate balance we've got to achieve with allowing people to be able to do with their property things that are reasonable, but here where it does affect the whole community, whether it's water quality or wildlife issues, it would be wonderful if developers would be able to consider how things that they want to do affect the rest of us. And thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Kate Warren, 4500 Orange Road. I was the last people who spoke as a boundary owner on the east side. I appreciate all the comments that have been said tonight and throughout the planning process. Just a couple of things to reiterate is there are no water rights associated with this property. So whatever happens, if the development moves forward, there will be a lot of requests. There's 32 requests for domestic culinary, and I don't know what would happen with the rest of it. I've always wondered about the water report that came out. I remember talking to Doug on the 15th of July in 2022. It was a wet year, and that's when people were doing their study. And Doug was concerned that our irrigation water coming down the ditch was flooding his property, and that his people doing the report, wetlands reports, were unable to drive out there or to really get out on the property because it was so wet. And he thought that maybe we could divert our water to a different area or location so that the water didn't impact their study. And I explained to him that we didn't have an alternate place to divert because we, diverted through our irrigation ditch, and that ditch has been in place since about the 1920s. So considering that year was so wet that they had such a difficult time driving out there or getting like their track hoe or backhoe or whatever piece of equipment they were using to dig those holes, is the wetland report that we received accurate? So that has always been kind of a concern of mine. In addition, Mr. Clough alluded earlier that, the facts should show that the professionals who did the report, and I apologize if I heard this incorrectly, that the county layer for wetlands might be incorrect based on the report that Mr. Budden submitted. Well, I would hope that the county's layer of wetlands is somewhat correct and that they know what is happening in the county. So it seems that there might be some, I don't want to say disagreement, but a difference potentially between what is received as a wetland report and what the county layer is. It's very wet areas. We dig post holes late in the fall, early in the spring, there's water. So what are foundations going to do? How is that, how are things going to work on that piece of property? And again, the water quality and quantity is a concern. Our irrigation system can't hold everything that has the potential to drain into them from a development. So thank you very much.
3935 Wise Alloway in Island Park. Well, you're president. I just have a question. I've been reading about wetlands, trying to understand what the rules are. Mr. Clough says we need to know what the rules are for wetlands. And according to the Army Corps of Engineers, the rules will not allow contaminated water to be dumped on wetlands. Well, those of us who live here know our water comes in the form of white snow and lands on the highway. And if this were to be built, it would land on all those roads and, of course, all those driveways, which would all have chemicals and to treat things so that they can be plowed. So my question is, what's going to happen to all that contaminated snow, and how are they going to move it?
And Sella, 4437 Stone Run. Lived in Island Park last 10 years, been on property here 20 years. Been involved in fire service on and off since 1972. I'd like to make a comment to my colleague in the back about Capitol Hill instead and reports. The report that I read this morning, statement, read in Mishigash. You know what that word means in Yiddish? What's that? Mishigash.
Mishigash.
It means BS. In Yiddish. Sorry, I'm from New Jersey. I'm from New York. I'm also an Island Park firefighter. I've been here firefighter, like I say, since 1972 on and on. I've also been an Island Park Fire Commissioner for the past 2 years. Our biggest concerns are water, weather. The comprehensive plan, the comprehensive plan provides for adequate water supply. Right here. The comprehensive. Hello?
No.
The comprehensive plan provides that adequate water resources, firefighting be provided. There are not sufficient water supplies in Island Park. We have to carry it in our fire trucks. The only place in the park, in our community, that have hydrants are Pine Haven, Harriman State Park. There's one other little community that has fire hydrants, but for our purposes, we use the water on our fire trucks. We have to go back to either the firehouse and pump water in or direct water from stream, which is impossible in the winter. So first, we have a limited water supply. Second, weather. The flats gets closed. Who's going to keep those roads clear so that we can get in there, EMTs can get in and fight these fires. We also heard about this wildfire mitigation plan. We know what the weather is like on the flats. We saw the fires in Los Angeles, driven by wind. Had a fire burning there. What do you think you're going to blow the embers right into the woods and create a bigger wildfire there? This will create a threat to our crew, our firefighters who are dedicated and have been through quite a lot this year, especially with the horrible accident in Ellen County. We covered 35 miles. We have several fire stations along that length, but this is just an additional burden on community resources. So, for all intents and purposes, the Island Park Fire Department and the Island Park Fire Commissioners asked that this ridiculous proposal, this ideal subdivision, whatever that means, be turned down. And now on a personal note, during the airport hearing, a lot of people were here, and at the end, they got little rowdies. But I didn't expect a public official to tell people to shut up during that hearing. A public official is paid by my taxpayer money.
He's giving you time.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, after that report, pretty biased if you read it. It criticizes public comments. It seems totally pro developers. Do we need more development here? We need people to make money off the flats. One person, one corporation will make this money. No profits. We need to preserve the integrity of our community, preserve the safety of our community by not burdening our existing resources. And we need to stop this now. So please do your job. Read the leaked documents. Take the public comments under consideration. And hopefully this will work out for the best for the future of our community. Thanks, guys.
You should have been on our list before you volunteered for that.